Okay, now on to our last part of 5.1. This is on be writing equations. We were given equations, we had to graph them. We were given equations, we had to find the solutions with graphing. We did application problems, either using the formula for vertex or the graph and find the vertex that way. Now you're going to be given information about the graph or the graph itself, and you're going to have to write the equation. We're going to look at all three forms. Vertex form, intercept form, you're going to have to do by hand. Standard form, you're going to be able to use the calculator function on your calculator. Okay? So we're still dealing with 5.1 quadratic equations, and here's the first question. Write an equation in vertex form for a parabola with a vertex of 6, -2, and also goes through point 32. It's important to think about what equation you're going to be looking at. Since it's asking us for vertex form, y equals ax minus h squared plus k. Always make sure you're thinking of the right equation as you're working through here. Now, just like in section 2.4 where you're writing equations for linear functions, you're going to have to solve for some of these pieces. The pieces that you need to plug into your final answer is your a, your h, and your k. Okay, so they're the three pieces you need to know. Going back to our problem here, let's look at what pieces we have. A vertex of 6, -2. Well, vertex form, we know that's our HK. Okay? Now it tells us we have a point 32 where it goes through point 32. That's just a random point. Random points are just XY. So now we have HK, XY. We have 4 of the 5 variables in that equation, so we can solve for that third one that we need, which is A. Take your time and make sure you put everything in the correct spots. We're solving for A. Okay. Now take your time when you're solving these. It's very important to make sure you are getting rid of this back end first. This is the most common mistake I see. Make sure you're adding that 2 first. Since it's -2, we're adding it to both sides. A lot of people want to combine it with the term after we square here. You have to get rid of that term first and get everything away from that variable. Okay, so you're getting rid of that 2. You end up with 4 equals A. I'm going to do some work here. We have 3 minus 6 is -3 squared is 9. And the last step, divide by 9. So we have A equals 4/9. And our final answer is taking our H, our K, and our A, put it back into the equation. And if you write that back end as -2, that would be fine. We have our A is 4/9, H is 6, so we have x minus 6, and plus -2 at the end there. So that's an example of vertex form. Again, make sure you get rid of that back end first. I think the intercept form ones are a little easier. The equation I think is a little easier to solve. Write an equation for a parabola in intercept form that has x-intercepts -2 and 3, and also pass through point -1, 2. So intercept form. Y equals A, x minus P, x minus Q. So there's the equation. Again, let's go through and make sure we know the information the problem's giving us. X-intercepts -2, 3. Well, that's our P, that's our Q. And we go through point -1, 2. That's an X and a Y. Random points, just X and Y. So again, now we have all the variables except for that A. So now we can plug in and solve. Okay, so again, take your time solving this. Make sure you watch your positive and negatives here. Make sure, double check. -1 is our X, -2, 3. Okay, we look okay. 2 equals A. -1 minus -1 minus a -2 gives us a 1. 1 minus 3 gives us -4. Going through that work, so I'll double check my math here on my key here. Okay, that looks good. 2 equals A times -4, dividing by -4. A equals -1/2. Okay, just like before, now you gotta take your A, your P, and your Q. Okay, that's what you need to plug in. And our final answer, y equals -1/2 x. I'm gonna write this a little nicer. I'm gonna write it as x plus 2 instead of x minus a -2. Remember, two negatives make a positive. And x minus 3. Okay, so again, vertex form, A, H, and K. For intercept form, A, P, and Q is what you need to solve for. Okay, so those two problems were in paragraph form. If you're given an equation or a problem where it's giving you the graph, so here it's saying, write an equation in vertex form for the parabola below. Okay, and it's telling us we have point here, 4, 1, and vertex here, with the V next to it, that's telling us that's the vertex, and that is actually 2, it's actually -3, there's a little typo there. Okay, it's giving us the same information as before. Okay, it's telling us what our x, y is, and what our h, k is. Just make sure you have the correct point for the vertex and the random point. But now we're dealing with that same equation, y equals a, x minus h squared plus k, and now we can take those same pieces and plug in. 1 equals a, 4 minus 2 squared plus -3. Okay, so going through here, I'm going to add my 3 to both sides. 4 minus 2 is 2 squared is 4. Divide by 4, A equals 1. So there's our A, there's our H, there's our K. Y equals 1, x minus 2 squared minus 3. I'm going to write it as -3 instead of plus a -3 this time. Okay? So the same work. You have your same 4 pieces, you're plugging into the same equation, and it's the same steps. Adding your 3 first, get rid of that back end, simplify, and then divide. Okay? Final answer, make sure you're plugging everything into that equation. Okay, so that was vertex form. And write an equation in intercept form for the parabola below. So this one we're looking at, for intercept form we needed a point and we need our x-intercepts. Now this isn't telling us our x-intercepts, but we can just look at the graph. We have x-intercept there, so we're going to say our p is 2. Over here we have q equals 1, 2, 3, 4, yep, -4 in that case. So now we have a point, -1, -4, that's our xy. We have our p, we have our q. And now we can find our intercept form. We need to solve for a just like before. Okay, so over here, okay, y equals a, x minus p, x minus q. Take a second, plug everything in. Okay, so I'm just on double check. -4 equals a, -1 minus a -4, -1 minus 2. So we look good there. -4 equals a. That ends up being -1 plus 3. And -3. -4 equals a, -9. 4 over 9 equals a. So I'll sit here and double check my work real quick. That looks good. Final answer, y equals 4 over 9, x plus 4, x minus 2. Again, I'm writing that x minus a -4 is x plus 4 just to make it look a little nicer. Okay, so that's examples of vertex intercept form. One is with in paragraph form, or if you're given the equation or the graph of the parabola. Okay, make sure you're finding the correct variables and make sure you're writing your equation for your final answer. Now, the last part here is standard form. Okay, and I'm going to ask you to find it in standard form. I'm going to let you use the calculator function for this. So for this one, find the quadratic function of the 3 points below, write the function in standard form. You need to remember, thinking back when we did linear regression. Linear regression, we use the linreg function to find slope and our y-intercept. It's the same thing here. Your x value is on being your L1. Your y value is in your L2. Okay, so when you plug this in, you're going to be going to the quadratic reg. Depending on your calculator, it should be maybe 5 or 6 in that calculator function. Right in the same function where we did the linreg, and you're going to have to tell it L1, comma L2, where it's going to ask for your X list or your Y list, depending on your calculator, and it's going to give you A, B, and C. Okay? It's going to give you the coefficients and the constant for that standard form. In this case, if you're going to practice this one, you should end up with y equals 3x squared minus 5x plus 1. So it's going to tell you that our A is 3, our B is -5, and our C is 1. You just need to plug it into that standard form, and that's the equation now. Okay, that would be the equation you would use, and you could use that to make your predictions or answer questions just like we have been doing in the first video or the video before here for the application problems. Okay, so this last section, we found equations by hand and also the quadratic function on your calculator.